Well, I am doing this The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron. If you can read this book, if you're wanting to reconnect your creativity, I think she's really great. She brings a very interesting perspective or interesting perspectives onto so many different topics, and it's short. Like each chapter is very short, a lot of different exercises. But anyways, I started with a group of friends back in December, so now we're gonna be week 9 on Sunday. So it's been almost 2 months that we are together, that we're reading, that we're exchanging, that we're just doing this together, sharing this journey of reconnecting to our creativity and practicing our creativity. I'm so hungry. And I I started doing this and I offered this option to my friends because I was like, well, what's the point of doing things alone when you can do it together? Again, sharing perspectives, sharing stories, understanding a bit more about each other. Not even like sharing tips and tricks and whatever, but it's more having a space where we can just be. It can be very hard when you're in transition, when you're moving from one thing to another, from one cycle to another. Like, I personally feel like doing it alone is not easy, and I've always done things alone. And last year, end of year, with 2025 and all the shit show that happened, I was like, I don't want to do this alone, man. Like, of course, I love leading and facilitating and creating spaces and stuff, but I also just want to be with people, because I was just really isolating myself because I was tired and burnout and everything. And I was like, I don't think that's the way to go. And actually, I just don't want to live like this anymore. Live like the, very happy, bubbly and everything. But then when shit hits the fan, it's like, oh, I still need to find a solution by myself and blah, 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 being the strong, independent woman and everything. Great. But 34 years of that is enough. So I offered. The girls said yes. Everybody bought the book. And I was like, oh my God. And I'll be super honest. I started and now I don't even remember my train of thoughts, okay? And this is exactly what happens when I don't fucking eat. I only ate oats this morning. So guys, eat your fucking proteins because proteins is what helps us remember things. So I'm gonna have a break. I'm gonna go eat and I'll come back to this voice because I'm not done. I know exactly what I want to share. Bon, c'est bon. It literally took me an hour and a half to figure out what it is that I wanted to talk to you about. And I still didn't eat. I still didn't have my protein. But I had a very interesting conversation with a friend of mine. But anyways, so this book, really nice, super nice perspectives, super nice and challenging exercises, like really confronting ones. And at the same time, on Sunday last week, what I love about, doing these exercises with the girls is that, again, we're all sharing perspectives. We're all having different experiences of life, different views on a lot of different things, obviously. And I think that each and every one of us is also bringing their own interests, their own, I don't know what else to say apart from like ways of seeing things. And I think that's why our conversations are always so interesting, so like packed with gems. Like a lot of them are episodes of podcasts on their own. And I think I'm gonna start sharing some of these parts because I can definitely, support, inspire, shed light, bring again a new perspective, and then just change things for people because, that's the whole reason of Sabou. But anyways, one of the girls told us about what was happening for her at this moment when it comes to life experiences. And she's also like in this moment of what is it that I want to do? Where is it that I want to go? What is sort of like the connection point between everything? And the more she was talking, the more she said, I think that there's something coming up with women. in general. She doesn't know yet, again, how or what kind of things she wants to put up. But there's this sort of red thread around women. And I found it so inspiring that she was doing so many different things that on the outside you would think, what's the point, quote unquote, What is the link? How do you connect the dots between one thing and another? It made me question, like, well, sometimes you don't necessarily have to have a red thread. If there is one, fine. But if there's none, I guess it's also fine. I've never had, a red thread between doing coaching and dancing and movement direction and all sorts of things I've done in my life. But actually I lie, because that's the whole point of my story, is to find the red thread. So scratch that. There is a red thread between everything that you always do. And the more she was sharing, the more it gave me hope into finding mine, because at this stage of me doing what I'm doing, aka the podcast, coming back on social media, trying to grow, like my personal brand, and not really knowing what it is that I want to be doing, and also the purchase series and everything. The more she spoke, the more I was like, putain, mais of course there's a red thread. So she gave me a lot of hope. And she also made me realize that sometimes we just really took things too much apart. Like, okay, I do this and that and that. And in our heads it's like, putain, en fait, there's, again, zero connection whilst there is. And so on Monday I was walking the dog, and I walk and I just like, okay, cool, what could be the red thread between everything? So I break my head, je me casse la tête vraiment, into trying to find it. Obviously I don't, because it's not by breaking your head that you find things. Putain, il y a de la poussière partout. And what happens is that I keep walking, and at some point it hit me. Like, literally, it hit me. And then I stopped with the dog, and I swear to you, I was like, mais bien sûr! It's like, mais bien sûr! And it's all about fucking stories. For me, my red thread is stories. Because, I forgot to say that, I break my head and everything, and then I go back to my childhood, because I think I saw something online that said, there's this trend that everybody's like, oh yeah, if you look at what you were doing when you were a kid, then you will have all the answers of your, you will have all the answers in your life. I'm like, well, flemme, So anyways, I was a bit like, bon, I'm a bit desperate, I'm saoul. Let's just look it up. And then I'm like, putain, I don't really remember a lot of things from my childhood, I really don't. I remember a lot of things that I was doing with my brother. Like, we were playing, we were building the cabane, So like little houses within our rooms, within our room, and like teepees, And then we would just bring our toys, we play there, then we exchange some stuff. Like, it was, I remember this was the first thing that came to my head. And then I remembered myself as a kid, and as a kid I loved reading books. I still do, I loved reading. Like, everything I could read, I would read it. And my mom taught me how to read at a very young age, which made me, I didn't do the first year of school. Le CP, classe préparatoire? No, I don't know. Cours préparatoire. Je sais pas. Anyways, this is the first year for kids in France to go. And then you have CE1, blah, blah, blah. So you have 5 years, and then life goes on. But I remembered that I loved fucking reading. I loved being in my bubble. I loved being by myself and reading. And I was fascinated by Egyptian antiquity. Antiquité? Egypt, right? Because I was fascinated. I was obsessed with my own country and with the pharaohs and with the myths and the legends and everything. And then I had a fascination and obsession for Greece and the Roman Empire and everything. So I was reading all the fucking time. I love books. I love being by myself. And then I traced it back to everything that I've done in my life, because I was like, "Putain, I think this is it. It's like stories." And when I think of my studies, at first I did a bachelor in English and Spanish because I loved languages, and we had a lot of like history, and I loved history class. I loved philosophy class, but I loved history class, you know. So when I had both and English and Spanish history, I was like, putain, mais bingo, you know, bingo. And my master's was, international human resources, but I chose a career as a recruiter. What is being a recruiter? Asking questions, asking people to tell their stories, helping people land the job of their lives, you know. And then when I think of digital marketing, it was the same, telling stories to get people to, you know, purchase the product and whatever. But I was more interested in what's the story that we want to bring to life so that people can join our world. And I mean, my business, being a dance teacher, having my dance school, it was all about this. It was all about helping people express themselves, tell their stories, connect with other people, connect stories together, create an even bigger story. And even now, what I'm doing with the podcast, with the story, the video project, the portrait series, and my personal journey on social media is the same. It's like fucking stories, mate. Putain, when I tell you that this was my big aha moment, I was like, mais évidemment, you know, evidentemente, guys. And so I sat with that. It's been a week since I'm sitting with that, and I'm very fine sitting with it. Like, I didn't go into like, okay, but what can I do? I need to find a job, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, je m'en fous. I know what it is. And the funniest part is that I always thought that, you know, now it's like a next chapter in my life, and then trying to figure things out and whatever. And I really thought that, oh, I'm rebranding, but rebranding can also just now be a sort of like remembering remembering who I am. It sounds very woo-woo, but when I thought of it, and when I looked back, and when I was like, putain, mais évidemment, stories, of course, this is what I love the most. You know, this is really what I love the most. So regardless of what I do next, as you know, the tangible expression of that is gonna be amazing, first of all. But I don't have to stress, you know. I don't have to stress. I'm just really like letting myself be guided by this sort of red thread around the stories, around telling stories. And I think I'll find the how shortly. You know, of course, I'm still experimenting, and I'm not in that position of like, oh yeah, but you know, I'm gonna be enlightened and God will strike me with a fucking answer. I do believe that, to be honest. But I also create my own opportunities with that, and provoking my luck, provoking the opportunity, finding it, creating the fucking door, you know. So for now, it's the portrait series, it's the podcast, it's coming back on social media, and like, again, practicing, finding my voice. And for me, there's this sort of process of not betraying myself, being intègre, you know, integrity. And just, I truly believe that by staying with that, with my values and with who I am at the moment, and figuring shit out, then I'll find my next chapter. Then I'll find the next, let's say, iteration, or like the next expression of my red threads. Donc voilà. Today, it was to give you that inspiration of, if you're in a transition, or you're thinking of switching, like, even if, you know, the red thread is going to be completely different, I think that exercise of looking back into what you really like doing when you were a child does bring a certain element of answer. And for now, for me, it's really stories, because, yeah, when I sort of like found it, I was like, bah oui. I don't know, it just brought such a huge sense of relief. Not even like this whole excitement and expansion. It's like, yeah! But more like, bah ouais, en fait. Bah ouais, c'est ça. You know, like as if, again, I knew it all along, but it was so layered with all the things that I did outside, you know? Even when looking at all the things I did, it was always like led by outside. Whilst now, within this journey of mine, it's more inside out. Whilst before was like more outside in. And when I felt that sense of relief, I was like, bah ouais, en fait, of course, you know, and it was more this inside out. Anyways, I'm repeating myself, so I just hope that you guys understand it. But I think that whatever this is bringing me now is really like a confirmation that we really have everything that we need. And all the answers that we're looking for, they are inside. They're not outside. They're not in people. They're not in podcasts. They're not in companies or whatever. They really are inside. So even if you are listening to this episode, and I just said that you don't find it in a podcast, you do find the inspiration, you do find the support, and you do find the help, 100%. But everything, again, is already in you. And if you just listen and pay attention, I swear to you, you're going to find it.